Bite Shift by Lena Nazarei. For Greta, thank you for loving me exactly as I am and always having my back, no matter what. For Jess and Patsy, thank you for your feedback, support, and being my cheerleaders. For Emily, thank you for getting the girls to and from practices, dropping off Starbucks, and believing in me. For the real Tom, thank you for taking the girls when I needed to write and never laughing when I told you I would publish a book someday. For the real Olivia and Ellie, thank you for being patient when I was writing instead of hanging out with you. You're the biggest reasons that I didn't give up on this dream. For Ted, thank you for your support and belief in this project. I just have to say, fake friends, real nurses. For everyone else, everyone knows it takes a village to raise a child. What many don't know is that it takes even bigger villages to write and publish a novel. My village freaking rocks. Chapter 1. I'm like so many women that you pass every day. You've seen me in the produce section staring at a pineapple pretending like I know how to tell if it's ripe. You've seen me walking into a fitting room hoping that this pair of jeans doesn't make me look like a whale. I'm usually in scrubs since I'm a nurse for 40 to 80 hours a week. I'm divorced. I live 30 miles from the house I grew up in. I have 2 teenage daughters. Oh yeah, and I'm a vampire. I know, you think I'm crazy, right? But I can assure you that I'm not. I am a real-life, totally dead, straight out of a movie vampire. For the sake of honesty, I'm pretty new as a vampire. 6 months today, come to think of it, but a vampire nonetheless. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. My name is Kate. I'm 39 years old. My daughters are Olivia and Ellie. They're 14 and 12. If you think the undead are scary, try 2 hormonal teens. I've been a registered nurse for 10 years, and every one of those years I've worked at the same Pittsburgh hospital. It's small, but I love the people, and you can't beat a 15-minute commute. My ex-husband lives 4 houses down from us. Everyone thinks it would be horrible, but it works for us. He's a good person. We were just terrible as a couple. He's remarried to the perfect spouse for him. And having them down the street means that the kids can have both parents in their lives without disrupting their school or missing their friends. So those are the basics. I'm sure that's not what you want to know. But don't worry, I'm getting to the good stuff. Despite being on this earth for almost 4 decades, the real story begins 6 months ago, a week and a half before my birthday, and the last day that I would be alive. It's funny when your whole life changes and you look back. All of the things that seemed so important, mortgage, college funds, if I should get a boob job, or whether or not I would ever share my bed again with a man, just seems so insignificant and ridiculous now. I don't care anymore if my boobs sag. I just don't want the wrong people to find out what I am and drag me outside to meet the sun or lock me in a lab for testing. Being a vampire isn't what you think it is. First off, I do not exude sexual prowess and mesmerize beautiful people with my gaze. I can see my reflection in the mirror, can eat garlic, and can't turn into a bat. Trust me, I tried. Crosses and churches don't repel me. I won't burst into flames when the sunlight touches me. That takes about 20 minutes of full exposure, and then you could use me to cook your steaks. That being said, the sun being up does make me sicker than the worst hangover and the most debilitating migraine you've ever had, with some kicks to the stomach thrown in. It's hard to even think straight by the time Good Morning America is on. Your best bet is to give in to the whole dusk till dawn thing. Of course, there are upsides. I will never age, never get the flu, never have a period, and I have never looked better. All of my split ends and gray roots and wrinkles and scars and sunspots all disappeared when I turned. The workout DVDs were thrown away since I will never gain a pound. Unfortunately, it also means the last 15 pounds will never go away either. Okay, let's be honest, it's more like 20 pounds. But all of my back pain, knee aches, plantar fasciitis, all gone. I feel like I could run a marathon, swim the ocean, and lift a car. Sounds perfect, right? You're thinking that you need to cancel that gym membership and know where the vampire sign-up sheet is immediately. Well, hold that thought. I'll also never lay on a tropical beach under the sun again. Never watch my daughters swim and play again. I'll miss their softball games, their matinee plays, their graduations, and the birth of their children. Don't forget, I'll also watch them age, fight disease, take their last breaths, and visit their graves. Still want to join this party? The truth is, I didn't have a choice. The person who turned me did it to save me. It was in the heat of the moment and they reacted. Looking back, I still don't know if I would have chosen differently if I had known then what I know now. I mean, who knows how they will react when it really happens? Everything moves so fast and so slow when your life comes to an end. It doesn't matter now because the choice was made and it can't be taken back. I am a vampire. I just have to get used to it. As far as my kids and everyone else knows, I've developed a rare condition that makes me allergic to the sun called solar urticaria. It just takes a few reports and test results for everyone to believe it. So I am on permanent night shift and the girls spend daylight hours with their dad. It keeps people from asking questions or giving me a hard time about going out. Eventually, it's gonna get a little suspicious that I'm not getting older, but I have a plan. I'm going back to school online and working on my master's in nursing with a focus on education, so I can start teaching online classes. I can leave the hospital and buy myself a few decades of making money without raising eyebrows. So, I've got the whole life thing under control for now. It's time to focus on the whole death thing next. I still have a lot to learn about being a vampire. The master and my maker have been teaching me some things, when we have the time. Jeez, still getting used to using words like maker and master. To be honest, I have all the time in the world now. Damn, it's still hard to accept the fact that this is a journal of my life and not some fiction that I just made up. All right. I'm sure you want me to get to the good stuff, like the big moment, right? You want to hear how I died, how I was turned, and what it was like. You want the juicy bits of the story. You guys are sick. Chapter 2. 6 months ago. All I could think about was my birthday. Should I have a party and invite the girls from work or just go out to eat with my kids like always? It felt like 40 was just around the corner and celebrating birthdays were just getting kind of morbid. As long as I didn't end up drinking a bottle of wine and crying in the shower, it would be an improvement from the previous birthday. I knew to expect a couple of handwritten cards, a homemade breakfast, and some original paintings from Olivia and Ellie, so I planned to make some room on my bedroom wall when I got home. Kate. The voice pulled me out of my thoughts and back to floor 5B, cardiac step down. I remembered I was working just as Monica's face came into focus. One look in her eyes and I knew she was well aware that my mind was halfway gone for a few minutes. Welcome back. Dr. Boone wants 502 to get 2 units of O-neg. If you get it, I'll put in the order. The weird one is down there and I'm not in the mood. You got it. I could actually use the walk and I don't mind Reese. He's quiet and I like quiet. Monica rolled her eyes. He's bizarre, and you know it. I bet he lives with his mom and reads comics in a room full of toys that he left in the box so they'll hold their value. So I shouldn't have given him your number?
Kate!
She made each letter sound like it was written in all caps and bold.
That is not funny.
I laughed and walked towards the door to the stairwell. The month before, I had promised myself I'd take the stairs until the last 20 melted off my hips. Stairs and vegetables. That would finally get me to 130 pounds. I just knew it. The basement floor was library quiet at night. You can't imagine the silence that falls over a hospital at 1 in the morning. On the units, you can hear beeps of the monitors, the subdued whispers of nurses at the station. But places without patients like the lab or the blood bank have a stillness that borders on eerie. I often used my breaks to walk around the parts of the hospital that I don't get to see often. That's how I've met people like Stuart, the night watchman, Camilla, the night operator, and Reese, the blood bank guy. They move around silently, completing their tasks, helping the place run, and rarely getting seen. Reese is the most interesting. I'd put him at no older than 30 and no younger than 26. He's just under 6 feet tall with this reddish-brown hair that's just a little too long over his ears and often unruly, like he rolled out of bed and went straight to work. I doubt he even owns a comb. It makes me think he doesn't live with a woman. Whether it's a mother or a girlfriend, a woman would have told him to trim his hair and run a brush through it. Sometimes he says a word with a hint of an accent. I can't place it, but it makes me think he's not from here originally. A lot of the nurses think he's weird. I think he's just shy. Camilla is the exact opposite. She's barely 5 feet tall, with blonde hair down to her hips and straight ironed within an inch of its life. Her heavy makeup makes it hard to guess her age. If she sees me, she takes a deep breath, and I know she's about to start a story that will last hours. Because she's trapped in her little cubby, she's desperate for someone to talk to. I've taken her a coffee a few times when I just needed to get off my floor and go for a walk. She's the perfect person if you don't want to talk but love to listen. You just need a plan for getting away when it's time. And that leaves Stuart. I'd place him at about 60 years old. His gold wedding band is tarnished, and it looks like it hasn't been off his finger since the dawn of time, so I'm figuring he's been married to his high school sweetheart. I've never asked any details, but I think he has a few kids. I'd be willing to bet they're all in the area and in manual labor. The silver tag on his uniform says Milano, so I'd wager my paycheck he's Italian. I can just picture Stuart, his plump wife, and a table full of grown kids with their partners around a big table having a loud, chaotic Sunday dinner. It made me a little bit jealous that I didn't have parents and a family dinner like that. I reached the basement level and swung open the door to the hallway. Reese's music hit my ears. It's not as loud in the room as it seems it would be when you first hear it. The sound has a funny way of traveling in these lower levels. The closer you get to the blood room, the quieter the music gets. He must have thousands of CDs. Every time I come down here, it's a different album. Tonight, it's Pink Floyd. Hey, Reese! For 4 years since Reese started, I have started our conversation the same way. He's never had the first word.
Hey, Kate!
Reese jumps up from his desk in the back, and I can see his face over the computer monitor. His hair is extra messy tonight. He must have been sleeping at the desk when I called out his name.
Business or pleasure?
He asks, and then chuckles at either his idea of a joke or just the word pleasure. Both, I quip, and immediately regret it as I watch the blush move from his neck to his face. Kidding. 2 units of Oneg for 502, please. Dr. Boone is the ordering. Reese's fingers fly over the keys at a pace that still impresses me. He clearly spends a great deal of time on the computer. I use the search and peck style of typing, 1 finger at a time. Thankfully, my ability to type is not a requirement for being a nurse.
Got it,
he whispered and looked up to meet my eyes.
Is that all you need?
Do you have anything other than blood? I ask, laughing.
I guess not.
He responds sheepishly, looking down. I appreciate you asking, but no. The 2 units are enough. I'll take one now and come back for the other one when it's time. I felt bad. I didn't want to embarrass him. Looking again, I guessed he was younger than I thought, maybe 25. He looked like a young man still trying to figure out how to talk to a girl. I wanted to change the subject. How is it tonight? The look left his face and he became a little more comfortable in his skin.
It's been slow. You're the first person I've seen all night. So much for the whole full moon craziness. I thought I'd be running all night.
Don't say that, I shouted. You're gonna jinx us. His hand shot up to his mouth, trying to bring back the words and trap them in his mouth.
Oh, dang. Sorry, Kate.
No worries. Just know it's your fault if a 10-car pileup comes into the ER and they all need blood. He handed me a bag of blood out of the warmer, and I signed a paper for records. Every bag of blood that comes in is kept track of. You'd be surprised how many get wasted or are no good. For those of you who don't give blood, you should. Hospitals are always in need. Talk to you later, Reese. I'm on night shift all week.
Me too,
he said as he dropped back down into his office chair and became lost behind the screen. As I walked out, a thought popped into my head. I wonder if he's watching porn. I swallowed back laughter and hurried to the stairwell door before the giggles fought their way out, and I laughed all the way up to the 5th floor. Chapter 3. Monica was at the nurse's station when I got back. She had an energy drink in one hand and blood tubing in the other. I noted an oddly chipper mood and suspected that she had started smoking again. As far as I knew, she'd gone 6 weeks without a cigarette, but it wouldn't be the first time she fell off the wagon and tried to hide it from me. Her smile and relaxed body language had the nurse in me thinking she had a recent puff or two. I decided to confront her later. She was my best friend, and I knew she could quit but was struggling. I also knew she would never ask for help. I loved her enough to offer. "Ready, Toots?" she chirped. "One blood bag coming up." The policy in our hospital states that 2 nurses must check the blood and hang it for the patient. We went through the process of asking name, date of birth, reading off the information on the IV bag before giving it to the patient. Once the tubing was hooked up to the patient and spiked into the bag, we spent the first 15 minutes watching to make sure the pale old man in the bed didn't have a bad reaction to the plasma. Once we were sure he was fine, we slipped out and headed back to the station.
So,
Monica turned suddenly, locking eyes with me.
what's the plan for your birthday?
Darn. I'd actually forgotten I was getting old for a minute. Oh, I don't know. I think I'll just hang out with my kids. I feel like I never see them. Monica touched my shoulder.
Well, I get that, but you have to have time for yourself. Maybe we can do something that's kid-friendly.
Maybe, I responded, already knowing I would do anything to avoid going out with all of them. Just as I was about to change the subject, Monica zeroed in on something behind me and started to fluff her hair. I didn't even need to turn around. I knew exactly who was headed our way. Dr. Kitchener started working in our hospital 5 years ago. That meant Monica had loved him for 4 years, 11 months, 29 days, and 23 hours. Frankly, I didn't get it. I mean, I guess he's good looking. He's roughly 6'2" or 6'3", with chestnut brown hair that falls into his eyes when he looks down. As long as I'd known him, he looked like he shaved 2 days ago. It must take a lot of work to look like you don't do a lot of work on your appearance. I have blue eyes, and I always thought they were pretty. They look exactly like the sapphire in my high school ring. But his eyes are the kind of blue that you only see in the Caribbean, the blue waters from a poster in the window of a travel agency. His eyes are like looking into an ocean. Okay, he's definitely hot. One problem, though. He's a dick. He is just not hot enough for me to put up with that attitude. I took a deep breath and turned to smile at Dr. Kitchener. He was reading while walking and passed me before I could say a word. Fine by me. I hated pretending that I didn't think he was a jerk. I let go of the breath I was holding. Spoke too soon. He looked up and met my gaze. I wondered sometimes if he had the same reaction looking into my eyes as I had seeing his.
Blue eyes just aren't that common in a city full of Italian and Indian bloodlines. I was always taken aback when I faced someone else's blue or green gaze. It only took a second to realize that he didn't care one bit. He probably didn't even notice I was a human woman, let alone blue-eyed.
Kim.
Kate?
Kate, he responded without missing a beat. Is the blood running?
Yes, Dr. Kitchener. This was like a chant when he was around. Yes, Dr. Kitchener. Every other doctor I worked with goes by their first name with the nurses. Not him. The most I knew about him was the embroidery on his jacket. A. Kitchener, M.D., Hematology. That's it. In all those years of night shifts and desperate conversations amongst the staff to stay awake, he was the only one who stayed tight-lipped. So all the nurses responded the same way. Yes, Dr. Kitchener, or no, Dr. Kitchener. For all I knew, the A stood for asshole.
Dr. Boone has consulted me to 502 to figure out why this man needs a transfusion every month. I want a close watch on him. Any change, and I want paged.
Yes, Dr. Kitchener. He was already halfway down the hallway before I got the words out. You're welcome, I whispered to his back. Monica rushed over to grab my arm.
Oh, Kate, I can't stand it. No man should be that gorgeous. You should invite him out for your birthday. A couple of drinks, and maybe I can confess my undying love to him.
Please! No way would I spend my birthday with him. The only reason they hired him is because no one wants to work nights, and they need a warm body in a lab coat. It definitely wasn't his personality. Monica wasn't listening. She was staring off down the hallway where her dream man had just disappeared. She was my best friend, and I'll love her forever, but this one, I just don't get. Monica! I snapped my fingers in front of her eyes, and she jumped. Listen, that blood has a few hours to run. My patients are asleep, and I need a break. I'm taking my lunch and getting some fresh air. Please keep an ear open for my people and call me if anything happens.
Done. See you in 30. Enjoy your break, but please be careful outside. I hate it when you go out there. Just go to the cafeteria or sit in the break room.
No thanks. I'll be fine. The cafeteria is creepy, and the break room smells like Lisa's salmon. 503 has a bed alarm, and 507 is confused. When I get back, then you can go. I handed her a sheet that had notes on it for each one of my patients and moved quickly to the break room for my lunchbox. I was always certain that somebody would try and stop me when I went on break, so I moved as quickly as possible. Looking back now, knowing what was about to happen, I should have listened to Monica and stayed in the break room. Salmon doesn't smell that bad. Chapter 4. If you walk back down the back stairs, past the morgue, and out the little door in the back, you'll find my favorite spot. As macabre as it sounds, our hospital is next to a cemetery. The graveyard's been there forever, over a century. So that means more than one person looked at the land next to it and said, yep, that's the perfect place for a hospital. So if you're one of the lucky patients with a back room, you can look out of your hospital bed into a graveyard. I can't imagine what it's like for someone getting a terminal diagnosis. I'm sorry to tell you that the lump is in fact cancer. Try to relax and enjoy the view. That's where you'll be soon anyway. Because of the gravestones, many of the staff won't come out to the rear of the hospital. If they did, they would find a small patch of grass with a black iron bench. Just behind and above the bench is a tree. I couldn't have told you what kind of tree it was, just that the branches reach out over the little bench like it was protecting the spot. The autumn was starting to turn the leaves into red and yellow. It was my favorite time of year. The smell in the air was a mix of fireplaces and dried grass. My iPhone was in my lunchbox, and I checked it for messages. None. Everything must be good with the girls at their dad's house. I pulled open the music app and hit the classical channel. The app pulled up music it thinks you may like, and tonight was a good choice. Moonlight Sonata danced through the night air, and immediately my stress melted away. The last food I would eat on this earth was packed into one of the few Tupperware containers I hadn't lost. It was the spaghetti that was not eaten at last night's dinner, a slice of wheat bread and cucumber slices. That about sums up my luck. My last meal as a human was cold leftovers. I realized I had forgotten to pack a fork and started picking up noodles with pieces of bread. 2 bites in, and I was telling myself that I would start my diet tomorrow for sure this time. Along with a fork, I had forgotten to pack a napkin, so I wiped my mouth on the inside of my scrub top thinking, this is why I'm single. But I knew that wasn't why I was single. I hadn't been with anyone since Tom because I was scared, not because I occasionally forgot my manners. The spaghetti did nothing for my hunger, and I turned to the cucumber. Suddenly, I'd wished I'd packed a few of the girls' cookies or a soda. The need for sugar was overwhelming, but the cucumbers would have to do. I would not slip into my 40s with love handles and no one to love them. Beethoven faded away into the night, and Holst took over. A French horn played a few notes that felt like longing for something lost. I recognized the piece. It was one of the planets. The knowledge of which planet was somewhere in my brain, but it couldn't be accessed on command anymore. Come on, brain. High school band. We went to the Kennedy Center to hear this performed. Oh, Kate, you know this. Venus! I shouted into the air, then realized no one was there to hear my genius. Oh well, I knew that I got it right and could be proud. I rewarded myself with another cucumber and laid my head to rest on the back of the bench. The iron was cold, but its solid strength felt like it would hold me all night if I wanted. A violin took up the lead. The music reminded me of a time when I was full of passion, and every moment of life was an experience to be treasured. I started to feel grief for the girl I used to be, the girl who felt her future was full of the kind of love that made violins play in your head. It was hard to believe that the stress of my job was only steps away. The bench seemed miles apart from the ringing of call bells. My heartbeat started to match the pace of the movement and swelled with every instrument in the orchestra. The air around me was clear and cool. I was lost in the music. Too lost to hear the snapping of a stick behind me. Chapter 5. There wasn't any real pain. It happened so fast. I couldn't tell you if the hand pushing my forehead back was first, or the heat in my throat, or if it was simultaneous. My first thought was that a large branch had broken off the tree and hit my head, pulling my neck back over the bench. My second thought had been that I didn't want to go into RER and explain to everybody how stupid I had been to sit outside by myself in the dark. Those 2 thoughts came and disappeared in half a second before the screaming in my head took over. Someone is holding me. I opened my eyes to realize the hand trying to snap my neck was covering my eyes as it pushed me back over the bench in an angle that couldn't be possible. The other hand was pressing into my stomach like it was trying to make its way through my abdomen and hit the wood behind me. It's too strong, so strong. The thoughts could have been coming out of my throat, but my voice was gone. My mouth was opening and closing, but no sound came out. He's stabbing my throat. How? Both hands are on me. There's more than one. One is holding me and one is stabbing me. No, not stabbing, ripping, tearing. Someone is tearing at my spine. Then I was in the air so violently I thought the bench must have snapped below me, but that would have sent me downwards. I was being lifted and thrown to the ground. I heard my iPhone crash to the sidewalk and felt soft dirt below my back. My eyes were no longer covered, but it was too dark to see. All I could do was feel and smell. I smelled wet earth, citrus, dry leaves, and spaghetti sauce, mixed with something like metal. That's blood, Kate, your blood. I felt more pulling, and the sound of torn fabric filled the night. The man was ripping my scrub top open. It didn't really matter at this point. I was dying. My girls took over my thoughts. I didn't care what he did, why he did it, or where I was. All I focused on was Olivia and Ellie. They would hear the next day that I was dead. They would be spared the details, but someday, when they were older, curiosity would make them look for answers. Attacked, topless, ripped apart. My thoughts crashed down around the pain ripping through my body, hot and sharp. I couldn't breathe. Please let it end. I would never see my daughters walk down the aisle or hold my grandchildren. Their dad would have to show them pictures and tell them stories of their mom, the nurse who was murdered too young. Even with the wet blood painting my face, I knew the feeling of a tear rolling down my cheek. I love you girls so much. I hope I told you enough times. I love you so much. The ripping and tearing stopped as quickly as it started. There was movement just above me, his head just to the right of mine and looking up. He was so still, so close. Why couldn't I see someone so close? I was losing my sight. Too much blood. I've lost too much. No one can survive this. Nothing. The air above me was empty. He's gone. How? I didn't see him stand or leave. No sound of running away. He was just gone. First your sight, Kate. Next your thinking. Soon you'll fall asleep, and the tree will be the only thing to watch you die. But then the pain will be gone. I thought of the bag of blood I had just hung, and how much of my blood would be useless and wasted on the cold ground. I couldn't make anything move. I could only lay there and listen to the orchestra finish its concert on my phone. Thankfully, I had music to die with. Oh God, no, he's back. There was something being shoved into my mouth. It's too big. My mouth was screaming in pain. I clamped my eyes shut. I didn't want to see him. Please, no, no more. Drink, Kate, drink it. I knew that voice, but it couldn't be. Why would he hurt me? Why would he do this? Kate, please don't be dead. Please, please drink. Please don't let me be too late. Something slid down my throat. It felt amazing. Was it water? It was cool, and it took the pain from the back of my throat as it rolled down. It must have been a bottle in my mouth. Someone had brought me a bottle of water to soothe me as I died. The absurdity of the idea escaped me because I just needed more of the water. It was too good to not enjoy while I could. I was shocked that I was still able to swallow. I knew the damage to my neck must have been severe. I mustered every ounce of strength I could to work the muscles of my mouth and pulled the fluid from the bottle. The gulping was painful, but at the same time the pain was starting to fade. I could not get enough of the water. I was so thirsty. I didn't think it was water. As clarity returned to my thoughts, I realized the water was too thick, and it was warm, not cold like I first felt. It was more like soup. It was the best soup I had ever had, and it was working. I felt better, almost like my strength was returning. I was afraid to believe that I may survive. The ER. Why isn't he going to the ER for help? My eyes were finally open, and the darkness of the night didn't feel so dangerous anymore. It was less like it was helping to hide the bad things, and more like it was hiding me from the bad things. It was protecting me. "You have to stop," the voice said. A hand pushed me gently, but with unexpected strength, away from the bottle in my mouth. The voice was different now. It was soft, softer than I've ever heard it. I started to cry, and my muscles shook with the exhaustion of the trauma. I climbed instinctively into his lap and curled up as tight as I could. The sobs came out of me, and I was surprised by my own cries. He started to say something to me, but I couldn't understand it. It was beautiful, but it was a different language. I heard tones in his voice that were different than usual. It sounded like love and comfort, like he was talking to a child. To me in that moment, he was wiser and older than time. "Reese?" "Shh," he said, and rocked me like a scared child after a nightmare. That must have been what this was. Just a nightmare. I fell asleep on the bench and had a nightmare and rolled off into the grass. "I know you're scared. You have no idea what's happening, but we have to move. Now." He He lifted me up and carried me towards the door. I didn't think of the big questions like, how is he carrying me? Where are we going? Shouldn't I find a shirt? How will we explain the blood? All I cared about was getting away from that spot and never going there again. The light inside was blinding. He moved faster than I knew could be real, and I knew I had lost more blood than I thought. Everything felt so quick. My brain couldn't keep up with the movements. The buzz of the lights, the squeaking of the shoes, the ticking of the clocks on the wall, everything was so loud. As we ran into the blood bank, he closed the door behind us and set me on the couch in the far corner of the room. Without a word, he moved to a bag under the desk and pulled out a t-shirt. I didn't know how long it had been there, but it smelled like the sock that had been forgotten in a gym bag for a few months.
Put this on.
He handed it to me and moved into the small bathroom off the main office. I heard the water in the sink turn on and shut off.
You're going to have to trust me, Kate. I promise you I will explain everything, but for now, please trust me and do everything I say.
He bent down so his face was level with mine. The washcloth was warm on my face as he started to wipe it down my cheeks and throat. When he pulled it back, I gasped. The white cloth was now red. He dropped it into the full pink basin at his feet, pulled it out of the water, wrung it out, and headed back for the other side of my face, repeating this several times: cheeks, throat, forehead, nose. Reese, your wrist! As he wiped the washcloth across my forehead, the right wrist traveled in front of my gaze, and his bloody wrist was in clear view. You got hurt? Did he attack you too? Did you get cut? What's happening, Reese? We have to call the police.
No!
He said in a way that shut me up instantly. He pulled an iPhone out of his pocket and handed it to me. I had enough cognition to recognize it was not mine. Mine must have been destroyed.
Kate, listen to me. You're going to call upstairs and tell them you are violently ill and your ex is picking you up and taking you home. They'll understand. Then you have to call your family and tell them you have the flu and you'll be staying at the hospital for a day or two for treatment.
Excuse me? I couldn't have heard that right. Why would I do that? I'm not ill.
Give me a few hours to explain everything. If you don't understand by then, you can call the police. Deal?
I'm freaking out, Reese. Please tell me.
Kate,
He interrupted.
we do not have long. Please make the calls now. We need to get you to my house within the next hour. You have to trust me.
Something in his voice told me I needed to listen. I must be insane. I'm basically setting up the perfect way for him to kidnap me and no one notices for at least 2 days. I looked into his eyes and knew he wasn't kidnapping me. He seemed so sincere and everything felt so urgent. He'd just saved my life. I didn't know how, but this boy had just pulled me back from death. Okay, Reese. I was still shaking a little as I took the phone and started to dial. Chapter 6. Reese had left a message with some administrator saying he had fallen very ill and needed to go home. If anyone needed blood, the supervisor would come and basically be Reese for the night. Chances were no one would notice he was gone. Monica was worried, but had told me to go home and try to feel better.
Oh, honey, I hope it's not C. diff or something bad like that. I definitely hope you weren't contagious while you were up here working with me.
I sent a text message to my ex explaining that I had become ill while working and we thought it was the flu and I was being admitted. Thankfully, he and his wife and our daughters were in Virginia visiting his family. I had a few days before they would try to visit me. I thanked the universe for this twist of fate, but had a second to wonder if the universe had known I would be attacked that night. Ponder that another night, Kate. Reese pulled me out of my thoughts by yanking up a backpack from under his desk, flipping off lights in the blood bank, and casually walking out like it was a normal night. I followed behind him, still trying to wrap my head around what had just occurred in the last 30 minutes. I chose to lay out in the back of his Honda Civic and struggled to put all the events into order. Spaghetti, music, attack, Reese? Music, attack, spaghetti, Reese? Spaghetti, attack, Reese? No matter how I lined it up, the truth kept repeating. Attack, attack, attack. You were attacked, and Reese saved you. You were attacked. You were dying. Reese saved you. Reese stopped you from dying. Reese. The road underneath changed to rock, and the bouncing started to lull me to sleep. Don't sleep, Kate. If you fall asleep, you may die. Why did I think that?
We're here.
Did his accent get thicker? I sat up and couldn't help but chuckle. Reese lived in a cute blue cottage with a white picket fence and big flowering trees on each side of a long porch. On the porch, 2 rocking chairs sat. I spun around slowly and couldn't see a neighbor in any direction, just fields in the moonlight. Reese looked puzzled.
Why did you laugh?
I met his gaze. Well, I took a deep breath. We all thought you lived with your mom. It was his turn to laugh.
Nope. Sorry, just me and the owls and a stray cat.
Yeah, his accent was thicker all of a sudden. Irish? He went to the trunk of the car and pulled out a cooler.
I promise. You're safe now.
With that, he started down the path leading to the porch and the front door. On each side of the stone trail, flowers were planted. I wasn't certain of the type, but they were purples and blues, and they smelled like candles that you get from expensive stores. You know, the ones that rich housewives love to shop at. As I stepped onto the porch, a hoot from the tree to my right confirmed that owls do, in fact, share this space with Reese. I shook my head. If you told me at midnight I would finish the shift at Reese's fairy tale cottage in his old concert tee, I would have laughed in your face and asked you to share whatever you were smoking. The front room was a small living area with a long brown corduroy couch accented by a burnt orange pillow on each side. At the left end of the couch, a small fireplace sat dark, ready for a chilly night to make it a necessity. The tan carpet was plush. I had the sudden desire to take off my shoes and feel it under my feet. I just knew it was soft enough to sleep on. The coffee table in front of the couch had a single remote and a book. I snuck a glance and saw that the book was The Shining. Reading a scary book out here in the middle of the night? Reese was tougher than anyone thought. Turning around, I saw a large walnut cabinet to the right of the door that I had just walked through. I assumed the TV was hidden behind its closed doors. Either it's a TV or the bodies of the girls he convinces to come back here alone. Oh, stop it, Kate. Why would he save you just to kill you? I don't know, Kate. Why do psychos do anything they do? My God, Kate, you have to stop fighting with yourself in your head. You are clearly the crazy one.
Kate.
I jumped at the sound of his voice and turned to face him. He'd been silent the whole drive, and I could tell something was really bothering him.
I'm going to show you to the bathroom. Why don't you take a shower, get the blood and the dirt off? There's a robe in there, and my room is to the right. Open the drawers and take any clothes you want. You'll want to be comfortable for what I am about to tell you.
Jeez, Reese. You make it sound so serious. It can't be that bad. I mean, I'm alive.
Oh, Kate.
He put his head down and seemed to decide not to say what he was about to say.
We'll talk after you're showered, okay?
Chapter 7. 20 minutes later, I sat at his kitchen table. It was one of those cute little breakfast nooks that looks like a corner booth in a sweet little country restaurant. I always wanted one, but worried it would look silly. Reese made it work. I wore an Aerosmith t-shirt and black men's pajama pants. I had to pull the drawstring pretty tight at the waist to keep them from falling down, but they were actually pretty darn comfortable. I might just accidentally take them home. It made me realize how long it had been since I put a man's shirt on. Heck, it'd been a long time since I was even alone with a man that wasn't in a hospital bed. Reese had wrapped his wrist in a white roll gauze bandage. There wasn't a spot of blood on it. Considering how it looked at the hospital, I thought he would need stitches, but if it had already stopped bleeding, then he might be okay. I'd look at it in the morning. What a night, I said, trying to break the silence. I'm starting to think it was all just a weird dream.
Maybe something was wrong with those cucumbers. Reese sat at the other side of the table and looked at me like he was about to confess something heavy. Love? Murder?
Kate, I've been thinking about how to start this, and I honestly don't know. This is my first time. I've been alone for so long, I guess I never thought that this would happen or what I would have to say afterwards.
Whoa, Reese. I put both my hands up between he and I. I'm honored, but honey, I don't want to be your first anything. I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong idea, but
It's already done, Kate. I cannot take it back, and I'm so sorry. I saw you there and I didn't know what to do. I just couldn't watch you die. You're my only friend and you have kids and you're such a good nurse and a good person and you're so young.
he put his head in his hands. It looked like his head was too heavy to hold as he rested his forehead against shaking palms. Slow down, Reese. I stood, leaning over the table, and laid my hands on either side of his face, lifting it up to look at me again. You saved me, so I don't know why you would apologize. I don't know what you did, but I know I would have died if you didn't find me. I will forever be grateful for you and what you did. He pulled his head from my hands and looked away to his right.
Don't say that until you've known everything. You may hate me soon and never want to see me again. I keep thinking about that. What if you never want to see me again and you despise me and I have to live with that for eternity?
Goodness, Reese, you sound so dramatic. I could never hate you,
Stop!
That one word was so unlike him. That syllable filled the room and resonated in every part of me. I sat again, powerless against that sound and the power beneath it. He turned to me once more, but his dull eyes were bright emerald green. A light shone behind them and captured me. In that moment, I would have done anything he said. Then the gaze released me. His pupils faded to the brownish green of river water in a summer sun. I remained still. Something inside me knew that what I was about to hear would change my life forever. Fear overwhelmed me as my heart slid down into my stomach. I don't think I want to hear this. Let me go home.
You have to hear this. You can go home once you've heard this and you decide.
He lowered his sight to the tabletop. I watched him gather his courage and straighten up his spine. When he looked up, I knew he was ready.
I need you to listen to me and all I have to say. Once I am done, you can ask questions, laugh, hate me, run away, whatever you need to do, but listen to me first. Promise?
I promise, Reese. He laid each hand flat on the table and ensured I was looking at him.
I am a vampire.
His hand shot up into the air to stop me before I could speak.
Believe me or don't. It will not change the truth. I was born in Glasgow, Scotland in 1784. I've been here in the United States since World War II. First in California and then in Texas and now here. I've lived in solitude, surviving, unnoticed, and remaining peacefully. It's a lonely life, but it's kept me out of danger, and I swore I would never make another like me, never condemn another soul to my existence. I was never even tempted, no matter how close to torture that the loneliness felt. But tonight, I smelled the blood spilled outside the building, and I followed it.
He paused, looking intently at the tabletop in front of him. He was physically in front of me, but felt so far away. I took a moment to recognize the way he was speaking, how old-fashioned it sounded. Then he started again.
I cannot describe the feeling that came over me when I saw you lying there. I heard your heart beat slow, and I knew I only had seconds to choose. And as the decision was taken from me, I chose for you. And for that, I beg your forgiveness. If you do not want this, there is a chance for redemption. Before tonight ends on your human life, before the first sunrise brings your death and turns you forever, you can die. You're still mortal. I will end your life without pain and send you to whatever lies beyond this. I will ensure your daughters grow safely to old age, never wanting for a single penny until they can meet you on the other side. But you only have a handful of hours to choose. If you remain on this earth in that body, you will die and rise at dawn. You will turn. Only removing your head and destroying your heart will bring you true death. Now, if you have questions or feel the need to seek revenge against me, I welcome it.
What the hell was I supposed to follow that with? Reese, this is a very weird joke. Is this like a birthday prank that Monica put you up to? He only stared at me expectantly. The silence was unnerving. I'm starting to get kind of freaked out, and I don't think this is funny anymore. I'm actually scared. He continued to stare, open for whatever I sent his way. This cannot be real. Vampires are not real. You are not a vampire. I am not a vampire. I would know. He stood and walked over to me so slowly. His arms were open to show me that he meant no harm. He reached for my hand and lifted me out of the nook, leading me towards the bedroom. Any other time, I would have run away from a man that I barely knew walking straight for his bed, but a calm had come over me. Once in his room, he turned to face a large mirror above his dresser. He lifted his arm to indicate I should come to his side. My eyes were locked into his, afraid to look in the mirror. He nodded slightly, giving me the courage to turn. The reflection that gazed back at me was someone I hadn't seen in years. It was me before the exhaustion and the night shifts and the age. The gray roots that I had intended to color soon were gone. Acne scars, wrinkles, bags under my eyes, and stray eyebrow hairs, gone. My black hair shone under the overhead light. The dull, heavy strands that I had started the day with were silky, soft waves. All the years of damage were washed away.
You can take out your contacts,
He whispered. He whispered. I tore my eyes away from the beautiful girl in the mirror to look at Reese. You don't look like this. And then I felt rude. Sorry. He laughed.
It's okay, you're right. I've learned how to add a layer of magic over myself to appear more human. It takes a great deal of practice and time. For you, since you are a woman and young, you can use makeups and other tricks to look less beautiful.
I turned back to the vision in the glass and reached out to touch her.
But Kate, you must understand. This is more than just a strong, gorgeous body. You will live forever. You will watch those that you love fall prey to disease and age. You will lay them in the earth, never to see them in the afterlife. You must live off of blood. You must avoid the daylight. You must never tell anyone what you are. I need you to understand this before it is too late, and I cannot change what I have done. The cards played for you tonight ended with your death. This date can still be on your tombstone if you wish.
If this is true, which I'm still not convinced of, why would I want to die? Reese turned me to shift my focus from the mirror to him.
Because it is forever. I have lived in secret for over 200 years, Kate. Think about it for a few minutes. Contemplate what I have done and what it means for you and your family. Tell me that you despise me. Wail and tear at your clothes. Show me that you comprehend the severity of this.
Here's what I know, Reese. I can't leave my daughters yet. I refuse to never see them smile again. To let them put me in the ground and cry over me, it would devastate them. I would do anything for them, even say goodbye to them forever on the day that they die. Anything to make them happy.
Then, Kate, I have much to teach you before the sun comes and steals your human life away. You have no idea what is about to come.
Chapter 8.
When do you need to be back at work?
I'd actually forgotten about work for a little while. All the thoughts in my head were fighting to be the loudest, and I couldn't focus on any single idea. It felt like a party where the music is too loud and everyone is yelling to be heard and no one is having the same conversation. Words like blood, eternity, death, weaved in and out of the images of my children, my friends, the sun, and my reflection. Anything else, anything rational, was just lost in the jumble. Funny how the word vampire can make you forget you have a water bill to pay. Tonight, then I have 3 days off. We were back in the kitchen. I resumed my seat in the quaint nook as he retrieved a spiral notebook from a drawer next to the kitchen sink and joined me at the table. Inside the silver spiral holding the pages together was a black pen. He slipped it out, opened to a blank page, and started to scratch the pen across the paper before looking up.
What about your children? Can someone take care of them for a few days?
Yes, their dad. Why? He didn't answer right away, but scribbled something else below the original writing. His gaze darted around the page, and he looked panicked, like a man balancing his checkbook to realize that he had spent too much.
We have so much to do, so much to handle. It was so much easier in my time. It just disappeared. But now, do you live in a house or an apartment? Any animals? Do you have any commitments in the daytime that you cannot get out of?
I was starting to feel interrogated, like I needed a lawyer. House. No pets. No, I usually sleep and clean my house. Now you answer my questions. I slammed my hand onto the page he was fixed on, and he jumped at the interruption. What's going on? Why do I need all of this? When am I getting this teaching you promised? What happens at sunrise, and what is the turning? Reese laid down his pen and sat back in the chair. The panic in his face left, and a calm slid over his expression like putting on a glove.
I apologize, Kate. This is a great deal to manage all at once, and I want to ensure you have all that you need to start your new way of life. I'm here to help you get everything into place. There will be time for that. For now, I will address the most important issue.
Should I make popcorn? I quipped, trying to lighten the mood and perhaps go a few more seconds without learning what I was about to learn.
That is the first thing. You no longer need food. Human food can be eaten by us if you need to decrease suspicion or fit into a group. However, it will taste like nothing, like air. And likely it's going to cause you some gastric distress. You only need blood to survive.
So the blood thing, that's real?
Yes.
Then he froze and waited for my reaction. Human?
Preferably. Animal blood will nourish us. However, it's like using chewing gum to fix a break in a dam. It will work, but not for long, and the problem still remains. You'll hunger until you cannot bear it. When ravenous, a vampire cannot control the need. Stay satiated and you will survive.
I have to eat humans? I felt queasy. Was this really my only option? Murder in the future or death tonight?
Remain calm, Kate. You do not need to murder anyone. I drink blood from the blood bank. It's clean and tested for disease. It was given by volunteers and keeps us alive. It's an excellent option and will do the same for you.
He stood and left the room, returning seconds later with the cooler from his car. Setting it down next to the table, I already knew what would be inside. The lid slid off to reveal 4 IV bags, red and full. Did you steal those? I was shocked. Then I felt foolish. With everything that happened tonight, a little theft seemed insignificant.
I did not. I pay for extra bags to be delivered, and they are. The delivery service asks no questions. I suspect he's just happy for the extra cash. I can double the order from now.
Well, I struggled for what to say. I guess I'll save on groceries. How much is a blood bag? How many do I need? Reese smiled. 1 week is fine. These 4 will be our supply for 2 weeks, and then I will double the order. Please do not worry about money. You are my progeny. I will always care for you.
Progeny? Reese wrinkled his brow, searching for words.
Think of it like a child. I brought you into this life, and as a parent protects and guides and teaches and feeds their child, so will I do for you.
Again, I was lost for words. What do you say to that? Thank you, but I won't call you Dad. This brought a laugh from deep inside Reese. He bent over, his shoulders shaking, laughing harder than I'd seen anyone laugh in a long time. It was infectious. I felt the laughter well up inside of me. I laid over the tabletop and started to giggle. It felt like a steam valve being opened and the pressure finally releasing itself into freedom. After a few minutes of hilarity, we started to settle. The humor was replaced with a wash of sorrow. My life will never be the same.